Welcome to this month's Signal Conversation. And today I have as my guest Jay Sung, who is operating partner and CMO at Brentwood Associates, which is a private equity firm. Jay has substantive expertise in marketing and all kinds of roles that he has had, and is an excellent person to ask about the future of marketing and what he is seeing, what's around the corner for us with all the technical developments and business landscape developments that we're seeing around. Jay, you're very welcome here. I wanted to ask you as a first question, can you tell us a little bit more about Brentwood Associates and also what private equity is? Because not too many people might actually know what it does.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Brentwood is a Los Angeles-based private equity firm, to your point. It's what they call a mid-market private equity firm. So we focus on companies that are between 50 and 200 million in revenue. And what a private equity fund does basically is it gets investors largely from large pension funds is one of the larger sources of investors for private equity funds. And we take funds and put them to work by essentially buying companies. We have about 25 investment professionals at our firm who are steeped in knowledge in all kinds of different aspects of business analysis. And we go and buy companies. On average, we hold companies for 5, 6, 7 years. And then we go and hopefully grow them during that period of time and then sell them either to a larger private equity firm or in many cases to a strategic like a P&G.
So you're a good person to ask what's ahead. So what trends or signposts are you actually seeing out there that might give us a glimpse of what the future of commerce would look like?
It's tricky, Stan. We're still trying to digest what's happened over the last 5 years, right? I mean, what happened obviously during COVID was a huge push into digital, into e-commerce. A little bit of a sugar high, right? 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But the other bigger kind of trend over the last 5 years, or trying to absorb, is this explosion of detonation of direct to consumer brands, right? What the heck happened there? It was sort of a fizzy mix, right? Of Facebook was coming into its own. Consumers are starting to really shop through their mobile phone, and then enabled through VC funding, low interest rates, and then the Shopify phenomenon. And you like smush all that stuff together with Facebook creating really the greatest marketing machine of all time, because it pretty much sold out everyone's privacy. What a great invention that is for a marketer anyway. Kind of terrible from a consumer and privacy standpoint, but what a great invention for a marketer. Like, it could do no wrong. Like, Facebook could profitably acquire a customer no matter what. You could swing a dead cat and get a free customer, right? So this ecosystem spawned these gazillions of brands, and what that's given is now being taken away, right? Interest rates are up. I don't think there's too many smart VCs that are funding exclusively direct-to-consumer businesses anymore, because it's not just about shoving dollars at the Facebook machine and driving the top line and then going and exiting to somebody else. There are plenty of folks that were able to make it through that window, but that whole thing is starting to contract back to the norm. So the future, it's a little bit hazy as to what's going to happen to all those different companies. But what's very clear is that what was there before, some of these things are enduring. So omnichannel, retail, like for a long time, I was saying, like, guys, stop focusing on D2C. Like, the answer is retail. It's retail, and it's a hybrid of retail and D2C. It's not one or the other. D2C allows you to get closer to customers, and retail helps you leverage or amortize your brand investment, so that you're getting some more margin without having to pay, quote unquote, Facebook tax on every customer that comes through the door. It's a hybrid of those two things. So in the grand scheme of things, a lot of the earlier brands that I see, very early on in their game plan is like, we got to get our butt over into retail ASAP, because otherwise we can't, in a post iOS world, we really cannot afford to just keep shoving money into the Facebook machine. So that's in the grand scheme of things. As far as from a technology standpoint, for years, one of my favorite expressions that always comes up all the time is like, QVCification, of the web, right? When can we get into live selling? When can we have a more interactive commerce experience? You think about our websites, they haven't really changed very much. I mean, go over the last 10 years, websites are still, category, 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 and there's the navigation and there's a card. The only thing that's really gotten a little better is the checkout experience, because Shopify has made that, kind of frictionless. There's this, do you know this woman, Barbara Kahn from Wharton? She's a kind of a thought leader. She had a cool thing I read years ago, which I think still applies today. She said, like, the 4 quadrants of e-commerce growth. She said, I'm just trying to remember them off the top of my head. Brand, value, experience, and frictionless. Okay, I like that framework, because you think about successful, pick something like Adidas for brand, right? Like, the reason people buy Adidas is the brand. They don't buy it necessarily because the product's fantastic. They don't buy it because it's cheap. They buy it because of the brand ethos, right? You think about someone like, frictionless, that, like, that's what they made that box for Amazon. Okay, like, I want to buy something in one click. Okay, Amazon fits into that box. On the value side, someone like TJ Maxx can kind of generally do no wrong, because if it's cheap enough, I'll do it. And then last but not least is value, frictionless experience. And so it's the experience side that has been really sorely lacking on the web. You think about how the e-commerce experience generally, like, isn't fun at all. But recently, one of our brands that we exited last year, Saks Underwear, launched a web experience that's a little bit like a metaversey kind of experience. You don't need goggles or any crazy thing, but it's like a 3-dimensional shopping experience, like a little shopping mall, and you can look at products and rotate them in 3-dimension. And it's like a step in the right direction. Think about how flat it is. You come to an apparel website, it's like pants, 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 pants. Look at it. It's not very interesting. The other thing that I think we're going to see much more of, this term social commerce, which means different things to all kinds of different people. But if you think about it, over here, we have all this cool stuff going on with TikTok and influencers, and people are glued to their phone on social media feeds all day long. And then they do that, and then they maybe they click or they search later on, and they go over the wall. And then it's like in those old movies, and everything was color, and then it goes into black and white. Like, it's just a very static, web shopping experience. And there's a lot of friction. Because, payment tools are not in there. It's a different experience entirely. It's not very fun. So I think TikTok is leading the way on creating shopping experience, where they're going to shove that whole shopping experience into TikTok. Facebook's tried it before, but I think Gen Z and Gen Alpha, like the TikTok centricity of what they're up to, is really going to drive that experience part forward. So I think that vector, the other vectors are pretty well covered. You have Shop Pay and Amazon, blah, 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 blah. But the experience side has really been sorely lacking.
That's a very interesting perspective that you just provided, Jay. I assume that you also reflect that in how you look at potential investments then that are currently possible in the market. I know that the current interest rate conditions might not necessarily make it easy to put money on the table for new emerging companies. But where are you looking at as an investor today to put your money with an eye toward the future of commerce?
Yeah, great question. And I have to put a little disclaimer up here that I'm not speaking on the behalf of Brentwood at all. But I'll tell you very broadly, when we think about what's out there, we've never really liked companies that were purely direct to consumer, because it's always about when does the media spend stop scaling, and it's a data point that no amount of modeling can actually tell you. And we hold companies for 5, 6, 7 years, so there might be really impressive growth over the last 2 years, driven by customer acquisition and that kind of thing. But we're much more interested in the core fundamentals, which is around product market fit, around the power of the brand, looking for evidence that there's kind of a community or some sort of grassroots stickiness, if you will, that will allow it to power through whatever, 6 or 7 years, you have to get through a couple cycles of things, right? I mean, 2 or 3 years from now, who knows? Like, TikTok may not be here anymore. We don't even know. We have to be able to push through those cycles, and like what's fundamental is really is the brand aspect. As far as what we like, I'll say very broadly that um, there's a reorienting of values out there from 20 years ago, from buying stuff, right, to buying experiences and making yourself better, right? Self improvement. It's a very, very broad theme, but if you look at Brentwood 10 years ago, we were acquiring a lot of apparel companies. Apparel companies are about going out and making an impression on other people and collecting and buying things. And I think that consumer, in the 2020s, if you will, are much more focused on, they've climbed their hierarchy of needs, and they're pretty high up there in terms of what is it that I don't have. I have a whole closet full of clothes already. I got 3 cars. Like what else do I need in here? And it's health, it's wellness, it's actualization. We own part of a company called HIMS, publicly traded telemedicine platform. All of the trends that happened during COVID around transformation and utilizing, look at us zooming our way through here. How can you apply technology to older consumer problems? And then also the cherry on top is obviously this transformation around what's most important to people in their hierarchy of how they're going to go spend their money, and wellness, and being able to be proactive on their health in that way, aided by technology. That's the kind of investment like we couldn't resist.
So HIMS is one example. Do you have any other illustrations in your portfolio that you see as signposts of like where the future is headed? Or
yeah, another one. I mean, I'm into this health thing because it's you can see it if you zoom all the way out and look at the consumer health vertical, whether that includes VMS like vitamins and minerals and supplements, or it includes health and wellness and all the shakeups going on in the medical field around how you concierge medicine. It's just a humongous growing field. We have an investment in a company called El Nutra, which is a longevity platform. It was developed out of USC, and its flagship product is called Prolon. It's a 5-day kit, and it uses the science of fasting to carefully coordinate your calories and your macronutrients over a 5-day period to kind of choreograph your body into a very specific state of what they call cellular autophagy, which is a biomechanism they're just starting to really understand as far as being, good for longevity and against chronic illness. So that's a fascinating company. It violates one of our kind of rules, which is like not to invest in single product companies. But what we liked about it was its potential to expand beyond, from a product, into a brand, and then into a platform where it could be more than just a single product. It can be a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and trying to maximize what they call their health span. And we think the longevity market, it's weird because it's not exactly a market, but it's an evolving category that we're really very bullish about.
Jay, to wrap this up, one question to you. There's probably, if you were 25 today and you were stepping into the world of marketing and commerce, what advice would you give yourself? What 1 or 2 pieces of, good parental advice would you give to your younger self?
Right. Let's see. Well, I was always a kind of a nerd, and it served me well. I'm like a very curious person. It's how I've accumulated a lot of information up in my head. But there's nothing like doing stuff, right? To learn by doing. And increasingly, I've been really reflecting on this, Dan. I mean, in this day and age, it has never been easier to actually do stuff, to actually launch things. So I would probably tell my earlier self, hey, whatever your day job is, managing people and strategy and doing all these different things, get hands on keyboard and, set up a Shopify site and upload some images yourself and run some Facebook campaigns and use that sort of, side hustle is an overused term. And it's like, the purpose of side hustle is not exactly to go, make $1 million on the side or whatever. Like side hustle is an important part of an educational strategy, I would say, to really learning by doing. I think that's what I would tell my 25-year-old self.
Well, I'm glad that Signal 360 is your side hustle today. I learned a lot. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to talking again in the near future.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Stan. A lot of businesses, especially consumer businesses, are in a constant state of change. And if you feel like things are not changing, things changed already.